Welcome to Worship Leader Hangout. My name's Chad, and I have David. He's actually in Texas now. So if you remember watching back in the past, David has taken a church in Texas. And man, it's just so good to have you online today just to talk about, I titled it Lead Your Team, Not Theirs. And we'll get right into that. Say something to us, David. What's up?
Well, I'm glad to be doing this again. It's been a good minute. Um, Last time we did one, I was in California, and I was at a great church for 3 years, and now I'm in Texas, doing something different, you know. So
Man, that's awesome. Well, I'm still still in South Carolina, and just playing with stuff on my desk, and I'll stop so that way we can get this thing rolling. But today, David, I want to talk about. We talked about this just a second ago offline before we went on air, and I want to talk about, like I said, the title "Live," or no, I'll tell you where I got the title from. But lead your team, not theirs. Actually, there's a book coming out, I think in October, that says "Live Your Life, Not Theirs." That's the title of that. So it gave me an idea as far as that goes. And basically, what she's talking about is that same kind of thing that you see a status, almost a false status online, on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, that people are living these extreme, amazing lives, and yours seems like it sucks when it really doesn't. And you have to enjoy where you are and just keep pushing. And I don't know too much more about this book, but that's kind of what I've taken from the title and what I've seen online. It's by Rachel Cruz, by the way. But um, I'm excited to see that. But what I want to talk about today is lead your team and not theirs. And where this is coming from is the idea, and our viewers may not struggle with this. This may be just me. It might be you, David. I don't know. But and if we're helping each, what's most important. That's what Worship Leader Hangout is all about. And there's this mechanism called social media, internet, where you can post a picture, you can post a video of your team, of your current situation. Tons of other people can see this at one time, and it can look like you are on top of the world at any given moment in your life, and really you may not be, but yet there are people that look at that, and then, let me just come from my perspective. When I'm scrolling through Instagram, I'm seeing other worship leaders, other professionals, just seemingly doing so well, and it almost, I would say, at times, even maybe a little over a year ago, it kind of depressed me in a way, because I felt like, man, I was in the same position as they were in college. We're taking some of the same classes, going through some of the same, type of course structure, that kind of thing. And now they are leading churches of thousands, or leading business, you know, leading a huge business, or doing so many different things, and I am wherever I am.
yeah, you feel like a sense like maybe you're falling behind, you know, and I guess because you guys had the same opportunity in the beginning, or you were in the same place, 4 or 5 years ago, it's like all of a sudden their lives look so different. Um, Something I have to our lives on Facebook and social media is edited. You know, they're edited. Like nobody's gonna really show the time when they were crying in the bathroom or when they feel depressed or anything. And so sometimes when we see something so much, it can look like, well, that's obviously happening all the time for them, but in reality, to me, that's no different than the lives we see on television, the edited lives of these Hollywood actors that look like they all have it together. And um and yeah, that's all we see, when we know that a lot of them, they're emotionally depressed and all this other stuff. So
Yeah,
even and even knowing that, doesn't make us feel better, you
No,
know?
it doesn't. And what's funny too is, they may not be depressed. They may not be, they may not be struggling necessarily, but yet it's still, from our perspective, it's like, man, they're doing so well, and I just haven't, quote, made it yet, you know.
Yeah.
And we have to, and we'll get in this in more detail. Uh, we have to remember that we are where we are for a reason.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't want to compare, those other worship leaders or other people, or whatever you do. If you're watching this and you don't lead worship, you do something else, either in the church or in the professional world. It's the same thing across so many levels. Moms have the same sort of feeling when they see other moms with their 16 kids and doing perfect online. And there's nothing wrong with posting stuff online. As a worship leader, you want to post pictures of your team, or what God has done, or how many salvations you guys had, or the EP, the CD project that you're doing, or the songs you're writing. You want to post that. You want to share that with the world, and that's awesome. And you shouldn't feel like you're making somebody depressed. We're coming from the side of, what, as the other person, on the other side, how do we view those things healthy, or in a healthy way? I feel like you have something to say.
Oh no, I'm just listening to you, Mr. Chad.
I did notice, you just, I don't know, I could be wrong on this, but I just had to give a friend a bass to play on Monday, on July 4th, and all I had was a guitar bag, and so the top of the bass was sticking out about that much, and orange bass is in the background sticking out about that much, behind there.
You know whose
I just,
bass is this?
yeah, I know which bass that is, but is it because it's in a short case like mine?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Wow, we're in
Yeah.
the exact same, like, mind right now, because I just had to do that on Monday. I was like, hey, I'll put it in this case. If you're good, I'm good. I thought it was for him. But
Yeah.
anyway, it was funny. Um, that's how I feel when I wear some clothes, because I'm so tall. I just stick out of everything. But I my mom, actually, when I was growing up, she had a verse in a frame, in a picture frame, in my bathroom. Had to go in my bathroom every day, obviously. Had to brush my teeth and get ready for school and whatnot, growing up. And the verse was Jeremiah 29:11, very well known verse. Uh, and I would read that verse almost every day. I'd have to look at it every day. I mean, it'd get splashes of water on it, occasionally, and I had to clean it off and whatnot. But I had to look at that every day, and she put it, I believe, I could be wrong on this. It doesn't matter. I believe it was the New Living Translation. But and that's, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. So it was probably more the New King James, I think. Anyway, but that was the New Living Translation, and I would read that thing almost on a daily basis, and it really didn't hit me until about, gosh, I thought about it maybe a month ago, when we were kind of dealing with some of this stuff and talking about this almost on a daily basis. Oh, sorry about that. And I was thinking about it, going through it, and I was like, you know what? My mom was right. She put that there for a reason. I don't know if she meant to, to like, yeah, he's going to deal with these different things, or just, she just wanted to, put that encouragement in my life, and just let me know God has a plan for you. But I was thinking about it after we talked, David, and man, I broke down and was like, you know what? God has a plan for my life, and I am here at this church, at the church I was at almost 3 years ago. I was there for a reason, because God used that experience to get me where I am now. And God is using this experience to get me where I'm going next, whether it's going at another level at this church as far as growth and whatnot, or another church. I don't know. We don't know exactly what those plans are. As long as we surrender our lives to Christ, we know that we're in His will and we're doing what He wants us to do. He will take us where He wants us, whether it's to new heights and levels in our own and where we are currently, or another church. And a guy came into my office yesterday. We were planning for the 17th. I'm actually not going to be at church Sunday the 17th. And we were going through the music and everything. He just stopped, and we were just talking, and we just kind of stopped talking for a second. And he was like, he does this a lot, with different people on occasion. And he just says, I got to be bold, and I got to follow the Spirit right now, and just let you know that whatever you're dealing with the looking at the status of other people and feeling like you haven't made it yet, or he said, I want to encourage you to just stop, because God has you here. He is using you for this church, this house, for a reason, and you wouldn't believe like what God is doing with your life, if you actually could see how He does it and how He arranges things. I mean, he was just speaking into my life, and it meant so much. I didn't say much. I let him talk, and because I knew that God was using him to speak directly to me at that moment. And if he watches this video, awesome. I want him to. I didn't really say too much. I was like, wow, thanks. But man, if you're watching, that meant the world to me, because that's what I had been dealing with, and not just in the last few months. I mean, I've been dealing with this the last 2 years. I mean, there are people on Instagram that I just unfollowed for a little while because I couldn't handle that success, that level. And I mean, I'm being really real right now online, and I just had to unfollow people, not because I didn't like what I was seeing. I mean, they were doing great, but because I couldn't handle that on an emotional level. I had to not see the goodness in. Oh man, I wish they weren't doing as good. I didn't want to have those feelings. I wanted them to do well and continue doing well, and to grow in what they were doing, and not have any kind of envy or whatever. And so I just had to unfollow and move on with my life, and just continue to just strive for excellence in everything I do, for success, for what God wants, and where He wants me. And go back, and
And
I
you know
had
something,
a
Chuck?
different look at it. But go ahead, David.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, I used to think that it was wrong to want to be successful. I thought that for a time. I think it was because at the time, maybe for me, success was the idol. Um, Now I realize it's not to want to be successful, but I guess it's how we're trying to measure that success. And when we're always, we look at other people, and then when we see that as successful, you know, we look at our situation, and because their situation looks better, your form of success. But I think that um, we should realize that once we know that we are putting an excellent effort in our work, that we are successful in what we're doing, even though the fruit of that success may look completely different. Um, uh, Bigger churches when I was in college. I worked at bigger churches when I was at college, but I felt like the time when I was most successful in leading a congregation in worship and developing other musicians and singers, church of about 150 people. That's when I felt like I was most successful. But only in hindsight do I see that now. I was talking to a friend of mine. He works at a mega church, and I'm not talking like a 2,000 member mega church. I'm talking like a 10,000 member mega church. You know, I mean, it's massive. And he says he wants to go to a smaller church because he doesn't feel as if he feels not just lost in the crowd, but like he no longer has the same act. He was at a church with only a couple of hundred of people, you know, and so um, I ago, maybe 2 months ago, when I first moved to Texas, I was reading the book of Ecclesiastes, and first off, it's very confusing at times, but there was one portion that said where Solomon, I believe it's Solomon who writes it, and he says that in whatever you use contentment in that moment, not trying to find, not saying that, well, when I get there, I am content,
Hmm.
or looking back in the past and saying that was a better situation. But whatever your hands find themselves doing, also find contentment in that. And so it's easier said than done, obviously, but that's what I'm working towards. Because it's easy to just, at this moment in my life, say, I just want to be in a better situation. And a better situation is really just comparing myself to what I see somebody else has, you know? Um, and so right now in my life, I'm trying to learn to find contentment in the now, for the now. And, you know, we all want things to be different. Um, but I'm having to focus on the now, you know, focus on the now and focus on tomorrow and just in the moment, you know. So that's kind of where I'm at, and that's part of my struggles. Yeah.
Man, that's really good. I feel like your friend that said that he wanted to be at a smaller church, that's so good because we have a lot of opportunity at our level to let people come in and learn how to do the different things, learn the production from running cameras and lighting and sound to learning how to play an acoustic guitar and be on a worship team and seeing them learn, you know, how to play the chords properly and how to you know get the rhythm, the rhythm of their strum, you know, down, you know, on the acoustic guitar,
Yeah.
and seeing that them win at that, you know, it's like, okay, well, they were at that one level. And then, you know, 3 Sundays later, it's like, wow, what happened? You know, well, they actually practiced because you pushed them, and and that is very rewarding, and it is, I, you know, if we end up in a larger church, you know, I may like in a bigger situation like your friend, if you or me, we'll probably look back and kind of say almost the same thing, like, you know, I remember those days, and that was so rewarding. but but even still, and it may work in reverse. You know, we still have to realize, okay, why are we where we are?
Yeah.
And so,
And I think that there are a lot of lessons to learn where we are. You know, um, there are some people that graduated with us that just situations where they didn't have to develop anybody. Everything was set before them. They got a good music budget. They just hired the musicians they wanted. They had multiple great singers to choose from. So they just picked the great singers and they just went at it from there. And for some of us, quite frankly, most of us, which we don't realize it, had to go into churches where, you know, it wasn't the most ideal, you can say, you know, there was a lot of developing you had to do. Like you said, you had to teach that person how to strum. You had to stay there an extra hour for practice one day because you guys knew that you weren't ready for Sunday, you know. Um, More hands-on discipleship, not just discipleship in terms of uh, spirituality, teaching them about Christ and growing it and teaching them about worship, but just discipleship. How do you become a better musician?
Right.
You know, quite frankly, I didn't want to deal with that again. And I find myself, all over, you know.
Yeah.
At the same time, 3 years, uh, looking back on the last 3 years before I came out here, I I don't regret it, you know. Uh, that church musically has found themselves, and so the Lord gave me this gift that was able to, teach all these musicians how to develop themselves, and so um, yeah, I don't regret it. At the same time, going through it is painful, absolutely painful, and I I long to just show up, worry about people knowing their stuff, like
Yeah.
everybody's on point, and yeah, there's just a lot of lessons to be learned from what we're doing, and I think for me, I know that eventually I'd like to pastor. The truth of the matter is there are some principles that can be applied in developing a worship team that can to developing and growing a church. To develop church, you just can't bring them out of nowhere. The same way we have to develop the musicians and singers and sound techs and video guys in our church. And so most likely you're not going to get this. I'm not going to get an ideal church where everything's already been put together and I just have to come in and preach on Sunday morning and do home visitations and take the church, from the level they're at to another level. No, you most likely you have to take a church that's either or fit or and develop the people you that's partly the lessons I've been taking from what I've been dealing with.
Yeah. That's awesome. And yeah, you're so right. Because yeah, you can't expect to come in and everything be perfect and you just take it from there and take it further. You have to do some groundwork when you get there, and that's cool. And I mean, I could definitely see that in you, wanting to senior pastor one day. I mean, that's awesome. And yeah, God is using you where you are to build your leadership skills to be able to handle even bigger situations, even because quite frankly, the pastor position is a much greater responsibility than just the worship leader, in a sense. So that's awesome. And so as far as living, or as far as leading our team and not theirs, what I mean by that is when you're seeing stuff online, when you're seeing stuff on other churches' websites or Instagram, Facebook, when you're looking at what they're doing, sometimes you can your mind can get attached to what they're doing so much that you don't put the energy you need to in your own team and in the development of your own team. And so what I'm saying is lead your team. Whatever you feel like God is saying to move in your team, do that. Spend the time researching that, figuring that out. Whatever those things are, I don't want to be too specific because everybody's at a different level as far as like where their pastor wants to take the church and how they want to grow their worship team. Whether it's building an actual contemporary band, some people are at that spot right now, and that's where I was a little bit ago. Is like just I mean for less than 4 years ago, or okay, now you're getting into maybe actually starting to record or starting to whatever it may be. You are at a certain level where you have to put all your energy and your mind into that. You can't see what somebody else is doing and expect you to already be there and expect your team to already be there in a mental at a mental level. You have to spend the time developing your team to get them to where.
And you know something else, Chad?
Yeah.
They We have to learn to celebrate our successes, however small they are.
Yes. I
We
agree.
have to learn to celebrate those little successes, and remind yourself we are growing, we are moving, you know. um, I know you read that part of that book, Good to Great, and it talks about the hedgehog concept, I believe,
I'm in it
where
right now, actually.
no, the flywheel concept, where you're pushing something, and the first time it's like this, and you're pushing it, and you're trying to go around the first time, and the first time it's tough because
Yeah.
there's been no momentum, but the second time you push around it, it's a little bit easier, and the third time it's easier because you've been building momentum.
Right.
And so you have to learn to celebrate those successes. And to me, i I feel like whenever you're in situations like ours, you as a self are growing in ways that you cannot see right now,
Right.
and you are growing in ways that you cannot see right now, especially when you're learning to endure and stick it out, and not just, well, things aren't perfect, let me move, you know. um, I've had to learn in this transition process, but yeah, successes.
Yeah, and that's that's why God's put you in your position is He knows what that church needs, what that worship team needs, and He's put you there because of the talents you've already learned, the things you've already learned from where you've been, and yeah, you lead that team because God has put you there for a reason. And one thing I want to hit real quick before we end, we're going to end here in a couple minutes. Um, you may have, I might be talking to somebody else. I know. Anyway, well, I'll just say it. You, you may have gotten your degree in church music. You may have gotten your degree in something. We'll just say something, whatever it is, worship leadership, whatever. And you might be working at some bank or some X company, whatever you want to put there, and not actually using your degree. As long as you're following the will of God, man, you are there for a reason because you are learning something that, and if God wants you to be in worship leadership or any other kind of leadership in the church, you're learning something in that corporate world that church or that ministry needs when you get there. And I'm just putting that out there because I know there's some people that may feel a little bit depressed. Like, man, I really feel like I got to be here. I don't know why. I'd rather be in church. I'd rather be leading a team or even just volunteering for now, but I can't because of this other thing. Well, God's got you there for a reason. Just continue to press into Him, press into His presence, and know that you are following His will, and He'll take you. He'll take you because when I was part time in Florida and leading worship at a church, I was working doing video and doing photography and some base level marketing type stuff, some website stuff for another company, and now I do all that here. I do a lot of the social media, a lot of the graphic stuff, on the screens, a lot of the video. A lot of that stuff that I did for that company had nothing to do with church. Believe me, it had nothing to do with church. Um, I I do here. I use those skills, and I've gotten so much better at it here because I do it. And we are trying to get other more people involved in those areas because we want people that are better at that doing those things. But for now, there are a lot of things that I do because I have experience with that, or I have to just suddenly learn how to do it here. To be full time, a lot of times means you're wearing multiple hats in the church. You're doing multiple jobs, not just I am the worship leader and that's all I do. No,
And Chad, let me just say one more thing, and I promise I won't ever talk again.
you
Um,
better talk again.
so like I feel, and I realized this in my life, and I've only realized it when I went through this transition process. We have this goal that we're all trying to achieve, whatever it be, and a lot of times I think we're trying to get there as fast as possible, and we don't like the process of what it takes to get there. We're just trying to do whatever it takes to get to that goal. And I think, you know, my own issue is just wanting to get there so quickly and not looking in the now and seeing, okay, what is God doing with me now,
Right.
so that I'm prepared for wherever it is that I feel like he's called me to be, you know? And so that's a that's just a pitfall to try to avoid, is stop trying to rush
Mhm.
where you want to be. Don't try to be someplace where you're not ready. It's premature, even though we may feel like something, maybe we're not ready for it. And so just embrace the growing process that you're in right now, whatever that may be, because we're all in one.
Yeah,
All right, that's it.
that's very true. You're right. I mean, we are all growing in where we are, and we need to realize that. We need to remember that, and take that with us, and know that God has a plan for your life. Um, it if you are struggling with this, and then, I'm talking to myself here too, looking at Instagram posts, looking at Facebook posts of other people in your profession, seeming like they're doing better, just stop looking at it for a while. I mean, that's the most high executive level kind of advice I can give you, is just stop looking at it for a while, so that way it's not constantly on your mind, and think, what is God using me in right now? Just look around. So what is he using me? What do I have to do? Oh yeah, I gotta do this, or I need to do that. And then when you start, I mean, even it's so small, so simple. It's like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that. Let me just go do that. Even the smallest little thing is going to take what you do to another level. That's my opinion. Like this. Let me just show you this. This is part of what we did. As we at the beginning of the year, we rebranded the church, not because we wanted to look cool, but because we needed a fresh look. We had a brand new pastor start last year, and he wanted a fresh look, new values, new message for the church, and man, that was something I had never done. Other than for worship leader hangout, but that's a totally different level. I mean, this is for a church with a lot of people involved, and we had to come up with tons of designs, and that was something that I had never done, never ventured. But once we were in it, once we started doing it, and we started pushing designs out. We got some other company online that started um, going nuts. God just somehow fashioned that together for us. We'd never done that before. And I'm just saying, I'm just using that as an example. Just jump on that. Just jump on whatever that is that that God is pushing you toward in your current state, and stop looking at that stuff, and then maybe look at it. Go back to it later. Just see what God is doing in their life, and be excited for them, and be excited for where God is taking you. Man, I know you got to go. This has been awesome. We can go so much further in this. David, thank you so much for spending the time with us. And
Oh yeah, no, thank
let me
you.
just say, lead your team and not theirs. I hope this message has come clear through this broadcast, this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe for more content sent your way. And guys, remember that great worship leaders are always learning. Man, David, love you, dude. I'll talk to you later.
All right.